Oh, guys, good, you hear? I am so excited. Guess what? I hope this isn't about your podcast again. Why, did you finally listen to it?
Da-da-da-da, 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 the Groomer Next Door production. And now a message from our friends at Fetching Food.
The 1970s and 80s had Elbow, Gravy Train, Purina, Meow Mix, and Bell Bottoms. You've changed your clothes, now change how you feed your pet. Like Bell Bottoms, kick the kibble and join us in the 21st century with the healthiest diet for dogs and cats. Feed naturally, feed raw, feed Fetching Foods.
Groomer Next Door Podcast.
This pop isn't working, Benny. I'm baking like a toasted cheeser. It's so hot here. 150 degrees out there. You can't play baseball. You have to call it for the day. You gotta listen to him, Benny. Yeah.
So what are we gonna do?
Hello, pups and kittens, and welcome to another fun-filled and summer-like edition of the Groomer Next Door Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Green, and returning this week is Dr. Laurie Coger. We decided we had to get a great deal together, and because it was so time-sensitive, we practically had to record live, which was a lot of fun. It's always really fun to be able to talk to her and, catch up to a friend. So, before we go into that, let's get into our fact of the week. Because it is the dog days of summer, I thought, we should cover that. The dog days of summer have nothing to do with our pets, and everything to do with Sirius, the dog star, which Romans believed contributed to the rising temperatures in high summer, as if rises in the sky. I find that to be very interesting, and like everything else, I would like to go further into it, but I don't think we have time. And by that sound, Dr. Coger is about to enter the podcast studios. So with that said, welcome Dr. Laurie Coger back to the podcast.
Oh, hello. Hold on a sec. Dad, we have a guest on the podcast.
All right, this week on the podcast, my favorite doctor is back on the podcast. And what's funny is, unlike a lot of episodes, we're practically recording live. This week, you are going to be rejoined with Dr. Laurie Coger. Thank you for being on.
Hey, thanks for making room for me.
Oh, I told you this so many times. I would just pretty much make this your show. It just makes it more fun.
Thank you. I always have a good time.
Well, it's very easy just to kind of, riff and have a good time with you. I mean, heck, we've been doing this for about a half an hour already, and yet we just finally decided, let's hit record, which happens.
Yeah, we better share this with the world.
Well, unless they, again, if you want to hear about movies and you want to hear about other random things, then you would actually hear the movie stuff.
So you want to hear about the corn cob, about the bull mastiff from Wednesday that ate a rotisserie chicken, 2 dozen chicken wings, and corn on the cob.
Oh my God.
And of course I was like, well, we got to keep the trash. We got to find a new location for the trash. And the folks looked at me. They said, "Trash? Heck, he opens the refrigerator." This 125-pound dog. I'm like, okay, well, we'll be locking that. So he managed to digest and or throw up almost everything but one 3-inch segment of corn cob. And he managed to get that all the way about maybe 6 or 8 inches short of exiting the world.
Oh,
and we took him to surgery and helped it out the rest of the way. But what an amazing dog. A rotisserie chicken, 2 dozen wings, and some corn on the cob.
Oh, man. That's awesome. He's my kind of dog.
Oh, he was awesome. He was awesome.
I'm just thinking,
he was so much happier after that was out.
Well, I'm pretty sure he was happy as it was going in, too.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially the rotisserie chicken. That was probably pretty tasty.
I would think so. See, I mean, I can see how most of it would break down. The actual cob itself, I get.
Corn cobs are a really big danger, and I urge people, if you have corn cobs, take them out into the outside trash can or wherever, because dogs love to chew on them, and that cob, they'll just break into a segment, and it's the perfect size to get stuck in an intestine. And if this dog hadn't been so big, it would have been lodged in there and potentially caused a segment of the intestine to die, which could have been life-threatening.
And then
corn cobs are bad news when it comes to dogs ingesting them.
And I was just now thinking, oh wait, the bones on the chicken, they would have all been cooked, so that could have splintered. That could have gone bad too.
Could have, but I'd wager he crushed them up pretty well.
Yeah.
But the corn cobs not so much.
Wow. So what else is new?
Yeah. Well, that was the surgical excitement of the week, which was plenty. And just the logistics of a dog of that size is challenging. How does he's huge. He barely fit on my surgical table.
I bet.
And and now I have 3 technicians carrying him around because of course he's anesthetized. He needs to be carefully put back in his cage to wake up, and we don't want him to bloat. So a lot of monitoring, a lot of nursing care.
Ooh. Wow.
What else? It's summer. It's hot. It's humid. The dogs are great. Working on another edition of the book, of my Vaccines Explained book. Please don't buy it. Wait for fall. Wait for the updated edition, because there's a lot of information that isn't in there that you need. And that's been my world right now.
That's not a bad world to be in.
Of course, no, it isn't. And of course, following along with all the things that are going on in the dog food and dog health world, as anybody who's been watching the news knows.
Has it been an abundance of craziness when it comes to pet nutrition?
Oh my gosh. And from, of course, social media has it everywhere. Your local evening news is picking up the stories. Owners are calling the office. Do I have to get my dog's blood taurine level tested? Do I have to test my golden retriever for heart disease? It's just been nonstop. I would say for about the past 6 weeks have really been intense.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
And the information, of course, and is coming out slowly, thanks to Dr. Josh Stern out at the University of California at Davis Veterinary College. He's the primary worker on the heart disease taurine in dog food link. Where,
that's in reference to grain-free?
Well, it's in reference to grain-free, but everybody's twisting the ingredients, and I think they're missing the problem. The first association was that golden retrievers were getting heart disease, dilated cardiomyopathy, and all these dogs were eating grain-free foods, or many of them. And so people said, oh, grain-free is bad. And then people said, well, let's look at the ingredients more closely. Is it peas? Is it potatoes? Is it sweet potatoes, chickpeas, other legumes, other pulses? There's so many factors to consider as to what is either the food leading to the food not having enough taurine in it, or impairing the absorption. And there's so many things we just don't know. And we could have 2 golden retriever litter mates eating the same food. One gets the disease, one doesn't. One has low taurine, one doesn't. So there's individual factors, genetic factors, that we just don't have answers for yet. And of course, people are panicked because this is an incredibly serious heart disease, and many dogs' lives are shortened because of it.
I've said this so many times before and told you this. We were regular dry kibble feeders, but we were responsible because we were on the grain-free, thinking, okay, well, we're doing good. I'm not entirely sold. Yeah. It's only grain-free. That's the problem. I think there's still something a little bit off that we're missing.
And there are foods that contain grains that some dogs will have low taurine on. Mm-hmm. But there are 2 points to make. The first is taurine, being one of the essential amino acids, a building block of protein, is present mostly in meat sources. Mm-hmm. Dark poultry meat is rich in taurine. Heart is rich in taurine. Ironically, lamb or mutton is not a great taurine source. So if you were eating a lamb and sweet potato diet, that might be low in taurine. Taurine is also not designated as a required nutrient by AAFCO, who sets the standard for what should be in dog food, because the dog can make their own in their body if they have enough of 2 other amino acids to metabolize. But again, those things come from meat. So for me, one of the issues is how much meat is in the food. Now, in the grain-frees, there's a lot of protein in those legumes, in those beans and chickpeas and such. So they don't put as much meat in the food, and they still meet the protein requirement, but not the taurine. Do you follow?
Mm-hmm. I do.
And I picked up the phone and called some food manufacturers of some grain-free. And I picked 5 that were popular in my area. And out of those, I got an answer from 2. The other 3 said, we don't have that information. And the people answering the phones, who I know are just kind of reception type, they tried, they contacted tech support, etc. But the other 2 companies said 25% of our protein comes from meat. That means 75% comes from plants. It's no wonder you're low in taurine if you just look at those ingredients. And for one, if I was out there buying a premium quality grain-free, and I learned, it's supposed to be 40% protein, let's just pick a number, but only 25% is that from meat, that's insane. Absolutely insane. Now, in the grain-containing foods, grains don't have as much protein, so they're forced to put more meat in it. So that's where your grain-containing foods might be a better choice if you're only thinking about taurine. And, of course, I'm not considering that many companies do add extra taurine to their food. I'm just talking about taurine from food sources.
Right. It's...
But 25% from meat? That's insane.
When you think about what typically the meat is, it's not really viable.
And that's
meat.
Right. That's not even including the quality of the meat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the source itself.
My mind was blown. And, I called Blue Buffalo. They didn't have an answer for me. Wellness didn't have an answer for me. Taste of the Wild did. Taste of the Wild. And Pure Vita, or Tuffy's, who makes Pure Vita, which is very popular in my area, Nutrisource. And they make several other brands, and they were like, no, 25% is our standard.
Wow.
And just, mind-blowing. And you're paying $3 or more a pound for this stuff. Mm-hmm. You can go buy chickpeas for 79 cents a can. Mm-hmm. You don't need to pay $3 a pound.
And, it seems like all of those brands are what they would consider to be high-end, medium to high-end. And they're, I want to say, in the $40 to $50 range for, I would say, $20 bag, I think. I don't buy it, so I remember where I used to work, they had them, and they're popular.
Well, and of course, I'm in New York, you're in Missouri, closer to where the food is made. Prices are going to vary greatly with geography.
Yes.
So important for your listeners. But here in New York, it's not unusual for someone to buy a large bag of food and have it be over $100. And I think it's pretty much public knowledge, and that Origin and Acana are, and mainly Acana, is the main food being implicated in this problem. And Acana and Origin have been considered top of the line in terms of kibble foods, which is crazy.
Yeah, Yeah, I haven't figured out why they've gone down. Even the high ends they're plummeting. I'm not understanding it.
Well, but it's, we know we just had the AAFCO meeting where, the pet food industry, essentially a self-regulating industry, gets together and says, how are we going to, keep ourselves in business, make things go better for all of our people. And they've got to find ways to sell their products. I mean, that's their job. And if they can make it so that instead of using meat protein, they're using pea protein isolate, a heck of a lot cheaper and probably a lot easier to source and handle in the context of making the kibble. Now, I will point out to anybody who's interested, there are a number of Facebook groups that are sharing information, and one of those is, I think it's called the taurine deficiency in golden retrievers, and every week they share data of, owners are sharing their own dog's data, basically. This is what I fed, this is what my dog's cardiac findings were, this is what his taurine level was. So each week they're getting more and more information. And I am told that FDA is now looking at ways to gather their information for their investigation on actual foods associated with a blood taurine level that was done on the dog.
So
that just came out today.
Jumping on the FDA, kind of bandwagon here.
Sure.
I find it to be a little suspicious that all of a sudden now they're starting to go, maybe we need to be public with all this. They've known what's been going on. The USDA, the FDA, they've all known.
They're still investigating jerky treats. I mean,
true.
Really. Government moves so slowly. And I understand that, they've got to be 100% sure they're right before they make a decision that could potentially put a company out of business. Of course, we want them to be right. But there are many things that don't seem to add up, as far as why the FDA jump in here, why are certain people weighing in certain vet schools, certain departments, we'll never know the truth behind it, but it's intriguing.
It is really strange.
And to me, it's really strange because the bottom line is what all consumers want is a safe and nutritionally complete food for their dogs that's going to keep their dogs, or their cats for that matter, healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody seems to be interested in providing that, save for a few of the small and oftentimes raw or cooked companies.
Mm-hmm.
And for some folks, that's cost prohibitive. For me, it would be cost prohibitive, given I have multiple dogs. And they're more focused on whether they can use pea protein isolate to up the protein, for example, than does the dog need pea protein or does the dog need meat protein? But it truly is an industry based on using up waste product, not an industry based on meeting the dog or cats or other pet needs.
But if we actually went and we did a survey on how people feel about pet food, I bet you over 50% would say they still believe that pet food is safe. That shocks me.
Oh, I wager many more. 96% of people feed commercial kibble.
Yeah, well, that's why I said over 50%. Over 50% would.
Oh,
yeah.
I would bet 90% think it's fine.
Yeah, I would actually give you that one for sure. I'm just saying, I would say over half the people that were surveyed would say, yeah, it's safe. The government's watching everything. Yeah. We're good. But I do believe that probably out of 4 people, I would say 3 would say, no, not. It's totally safe and really good.
Yeah. And, there'd be that few that would say, I'm not sure, I only trust, company X or something like that.
Yeah.
The other complication is these companies are being bought and sold by other companies, and the people who started them with the passion, and I will include Hills in this. I mean, when Hills started, it was the best of what we knew then, and it seems like the passion was there to design a product that was best for the dog or cat.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as time passed and things get bought and people aren't involved, it becomes just a company, just a product. We're cranking out refrigerators instead of, something that is going to be used to nourish a living being.
And if you look...
And the small companies, I think of the many small foods. You probably remember, I don't know, pick a company, pick Wellness. When they first came out, they started with a small family sort of business, I believe in Massachusetts, not all that far from me. And these folks' passion was doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
And, as time went on, and God darn, they were successful. And when I said kibble, I said Wellness. And then, they grew beyond, moved on, company bought, all of a sudden other ingredients are coming in, all of a sudden there are recalls because it's not being managed from a place of passion, it's being managed from a place of profit.
Mm-hmm. Very true. And, if you look back on some commercials from different pet food companies back in the 60s and the 70s, they were real meat. It would actually look pretty good. So,
I mean, when I was a kid, there was Alpo horse meat, and, you looked at it, it was chunks of horse meat.
Mm-hmm.
But it was meat. Hopefully without pentobarbital. But we won't go there. I think we've been there in the past.
I'm just thinking, poor Wilbur. I don't know why. It just popped into my head.
Yep.
But I don't even think I would go and be safe to say, I bet you that none of the meat was tainted even then. I just don't think it was. I think everything had to be of the up and up. There was a standard, and and now...
Well, and it wasn't as competitive a market. I mean, the pet food market is intensely competitive. And, a company's business is to make a profit.
Mm-hmm.
And when the competition is such, they've got to count every penny. I don't think, back when I was a kid, or even when I was in vet school, and, Hills was supporting us, and I could buy a 40-pound bag of Science Diet Maintenance for $10, and the first ingredient was chicken, and, my dogs did fine on it, and I was a poor vet student with too much debt. $10 was a great deal for me. But, they can afford to do that now. I don't think they can afford to do that anymore. The market is, they don't have that much extra money. They find other ways to influence that student. But again, we won't go there.
I just think it's such a sad thing. But we've been doing episodes together for almost a year now, if not a year. And
maybe a little over.
Has it been over? It might be over. You might be right. And
just over.
The one thing that has changed in 1 year is the fact that it seems like it has gone into a tailspin of craziness in just the last year, where it's this is a problem, that's a problem, this is a reveal, this is a real, and it's almost head spinning, even down to raw feeding companies that people trust are having recalls, and you're going, what is going on here?
Well, certainly, we know, and it's been quoted in the popular press, if you will, or social media online. FDA declared the quote-unquote summer of raw and made it their mission to deeply investigate various raw food companies. Excuse me. So, of course, they were going to turn up more stuff. I think, when you looked at the number of recalls for raw versus the number of kibble in those time frames, there was a huge disparity. Mm-hmm. And not that I'm saying that, raw food companies shouldn't be held to standards. They should. Mm-hmm. They absolutely should. But that standard is wildly different from that of human foods. So if I walked from the meat aisle in the grocery store, where a certain amount of bacteria is allowed on a roaster chicken, but if I walk down the pet food aisle in that same grocery store, that chicken dog food must be sterile, meaning no bacteria. And to me, that makes no sense. We're going to handle both of those foods. Human exposure is going to occur in both, but the human food is not dangerous, but the kibble is, or the goldfish, or the Ritz crackers of this week.
The other thing I've noticed,
called for salmonella.
Something else that's really strange in just the last year is the verbiage.
Yeah.
If you look at how things have changed, it's like everything that was last year's packaging on ingredients have changed, but it's the same garbage, just a different word. What?
Oh yeah, and the number of kibble companies that are co-opting raw feeding terms.
Yes.
Whether we now have freeze-dried raw or coated with raw. Like, excuse me, it's been cooked, it's been processed, it is not raw. Or, prey formula. I guess you could consider anything a dog might eat prey.
Right.
But they're aiming for that subconscious, and it's marketing.
Yeah.
And again, I don't begrudge a company a profit. Just make a good product. I'll endorse you for Pete's sake.
Right.
Prey model feeding is a very common raw feeder's term. So you're kind of sneaking into that through the back door. And it's deceptive.
But prey model feeding is so much different that even down to biologically appropriate. I mean, prey is where you literally put the actual animal out there and the carcass practically, and the dog will go to town.
That is my definition. And I always say, you've got your extreme prey model, which is throw the dead bunny out in the yard and let the dog eat it, to your pristine raw feeder who uses a commercial product from the store, defrosts it, spoons it in a bowl, and then you've got everything in between. You've got what we call Franken prey, where it's in a bowl and it's cut up, but you're trying to simulate what a wild creature might be in terms of your bone and your organ meat and everything. There's 1,000 different ways to feed your pet. The most important thing is you get the required nutrients in there in the required amount. And then, you tailor it to the individual.
I'm going to throw a curveball at you. A huge curveball. And this is something that I've noticed on social media, and I'm just kind of curious what you think. Have you been on different raw feeding pages, and all of a sudden somebody will come up and they will almost debunk everything. They minimize simple proteins like chicken. Oh, you can't feed chicken. You can't. It has to always be the high scale, very expensive protein, and it has to be on these specific lines. And you start to wonder, and they're starting to come up with a bunch of different facts, and you start to wonder: is this big kibble? Is somebody?
Well, and that's why people get confused.
Yeah. And
people get turned off from raw or cooked. I'm fine if people want to cook as long as you do it right. They get turned off because they're like, this is too complicated. It's going to be too expensive, too much work. And where the heck am I going to get night harvested raw emu? Because my dog can't live if he doesn't eat night harvested raw emu. It's like, heck no. Your dog can do fine on chicken, turkey, beef, fish. You don't need alligator. But there are people who latch on to those details. Or, to pick on another detail, I'm a big picture person, and some people just get focused on nitpicking. You can't feed chicken because it's too high in omega-6. Well, guess what? Chicken's an affordable protein for many people. There's nothing wrong with feeding chicken as long as, A, you feed some other stuff too, and B, you counter that high level of omega-6 with omega-3s.
If you rotate your protein, too.
You rotate your protein. I mean, I feed a lot of chicken. I have gotten myself into a situation where my dogs weren't looking so good because I had lost sourcing on some other ingredients, and I was feeding too much chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And I called a friend and said, hey, you know, give me some outside perspective, run this through your spreadsheet, and I got put back on course. But, you know, I don't throw out any ingredient. I just say, okay, if I use this, what do I use to fill in the gaps? Fish oils, omega-3. A lot of people will be like, oh, my God, I can't use salmon oil because of the mercury. Mm-hmm. Or I can't use mussels or sardines because it has too much salt. Mm-hmm. Well, gee, you know, they live in salt water. They're going to have salt. So what are you going to do to make the salt level okay? But, you know, the nitpickers throw out ingredients, and pretty soon, not only do they have nothing to feed, they've turned off people that would have been helped by feeding their dogs a fresh food diet.
So it's
a lose-lose.
Do you ever think it's Big Pet Food that's just trying to just squash that?
I'm trying to be less of a conspiracy theorist than I am. My entire office, I tell them stories sometimes of stuff that's happened to me and my friends, and they tell me I'm a conspiracy theorist. But, you know, having had my website hacked, having had myself searched out by various people, yeah, it's possible. And, you know, to them who will listen, I hope, to this podcast, please, just make a good product. And we'll all be happy to endorse it. Be transparent. Tell us where you got your ingredients, why they're in there. And, you know, let's make better food.
You know,
I don't think all of them are conspiracy Big Pet Food people. I think it's people who don't have full training, who have too much time behind the keyboard, and who don't think of the big picture because that's not just either not their training or not the way their mind naturally works.
You know, I don't think that I've had anything hacked before, but I'm kind of one of those, go for it. I am so vanilla, have at it. You can have all your fun. Mm-hmm. I would actually feel a little bit privileged.
Well, I came home, and I'm like, I had all these notices from my website provider that you're in violation of your terms of service. You have exceeded your bandwidth for the next year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it turns out it's I think it's called a DDoS or something like that attack, where basically, and I'm kicking this cold this week and it kills me, they basically just keep hitting your site, so it creates so much traffic, and it's just a spam bot that does it. It costs about $200 to put that out, to put that hack onto somebody's, to hire a hacker.
Wow.
And, you know, I messaged up their support thing, and they said, okay, you know, clearly it was a spam bot. This is what needs to be done. This is how we'll resolve it. And they took care of it. But it's like, yeah, you know, it happens. That's why if anybody's reading my blog at healthydogworkshop.com, comments are closed, basically because I can't keep going through DDoS attacks. So you can always comment on my blog on the Facebook page. Not that I don't want to read your comments.
And now all of a sudden, Facebook's going to get slammed with different things.
Oh yeah, I guess I just opened that one up.
Oh well.
But yeah. But no, Facebook has their own kind of internal controls when stuff like that happens.
Right.
More so than, you know, my little website, because, you know, it is what it is. I'm just a part-time blogger and try to share some information and help some people. But I'm really big on not scaring people who are thinking about cooking or feeding raw. Mm-hmm. And heck, that's why I do phone consults, because I can talk you through this and make you not scared and give you the confidence that you've got an expert helping you do this, and, in a very short time, you've got your wings, you're flying, you're ready to help the next person, which is really what it's all about.
It really is. It's not as difficult. It's more scary because it's scarier now because of how social media is. And you're going to contaminate your kitchen, and you're going to get salmonella. You're going to die. And
if that was true, we'd all be dead already.
Well,
I mean, come on. We've all cooked Thanksgiving dinner and survived.
Yeah.
We've roasted a chicken. We've eaten rare steak or a rare hamburger.
My 10-year-old can put this together. Sushi. Yeah, right, sushi.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. Now, I obviously will do the caveat. I'm not talking about, people who are immunocompromised or sick currently with something, or on chemotherapy that's wiping out their immune system. Yeah, they've got to be careful with their own food as well as the dog's food. Mm-hmm. And even with FDA's focus on searching out problems in the raw food industry, kibble still has had way more recalls for salmonella, listeria, and other things, as have Ritz crackers and Pepperidge Farm goldfish.
It's a comparison.
And tomatoes and bagged salads and so forth and so forth.
But it's like a comparison on one plane crashes, and that means all of aviation is completely, going down the drain. It's one.
That's a good point.
Well, it's a weird comparison, but it's true though. It's sad. It's like one plane. I mean, people are killed so often, and unfortunately, even as we speak, there's a car accident that could have had a fatality, and it could have happened even when someone's listening. It was funny. I did an interview for USA Today a while back with, of all people, their travel expert. Oh boy!
And we were talking about flying dogs and stuff. And I said the one thing you have to remember is, in that plane, beyond cargo situations and stuff, everybody who's in the air is a professional and licensed by the FAA. Mm-hmm. Any Yahoo who can pass a road test can get on the road. Do you want to drive with just anybody, or do you want to ride with the professionals? Air travel is much safer.
Much safer.
Much, much safer.
But, one plane goes down, and it's just, it's like the sky is falling, no pun intended, but, it's very much like that.
Well, and I guess, we've all been in fender benders. We're like, it was a car accident, or, that person was texting or driving impaired. When that plane goes down, it's, oh my God, look at the wreckage, look at the carnage. Mm-hmm. It's big drama. Mm-hmm. So news travels.
And again,
it's like, I hit a deer. Bad, but okay.
It's kind of like, we can, That's kind of, I don't even know where to go with it. It's such a weird comparison, but it's so there. Let's move on to a very great thing that happened this week, which, what's funny is that I know a lot of the people that were there, and I feel like I just have talked to a couple of them. You know them, I've talked to a few of them, but AAFCO meeting was this week, and I guess, we should recap it a little bit. I don't even know where to start. So I'm going to give that one to you.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. So AAFCO meets, I want to say 3 times a year, at least twice. And, they are the private self-regulating organization for pet food. Mm-hmm. And they're working on ingredient definitions and other labeling changes and such, and of course safety and different issues about pet food. Mm-hmm. So a couple things stood out for me. One which I had forgotten was that until a pet food ingredient is defined, it cannot legally be used in a pet food. Mm-hmm. So there are some ingredients that pet food industry wants to use that haven't been defined yet. So the companies are pressuring AAFCO to define it so they can use it. And a couple companies, I think, have used things that aren't defined and gotten in trouble and backtracked. So, when that stuff didn't get defined, well, you're out of luck for 6 months, which can hurt a company financially quite a lot. The big victory, I think, and I'm going to say big with an asterisk by it, is we got labeling for carbohydrates on pet food, which is huge for those of us, especially with dogs with cancer, because we're very conscious of the carbs we put in these dogs. And a lot of the grain-frees people think are carb-free, and they are not. In fact, some are even higher in carbs than the foods that contain grains. So the reason I say there's an asterisk by it is that, and I have to investigate this further, they list them as carbs that are non-fiber, and to me it seems lower than my calculated carbs from doing the math. So I'm wondering if this is a totally transparent estimate of the carbohydrates or not. Because most people will say in order to make kibble you need 40% carbs. And on the label that Rodney put up, it was under, I want to say it was under 34%. He had the mock-up labels. Just looking that up right now for you. So on this sample food that they listed the non-fiber carbohydrate at 34%. And the fiber was 15. Now I'm used to seeing fiber at 6 to 8. So I need to look into this, because if it's deceptive, it's not useful. But the fact that it's on there at all is a win for us.
Yeah.
And that change has been in the works for several years.
Yeah,
it's been a long fight.
As you know, anything that goes up when it comes to AAFCO, it can go up now. If it went up this week, it's probably not going to see the light of day for 2 to 3 years. So, I mean...
Oh, exactly. Well, and, it takes time for people to change their nutrients, change their labels, how much stuff is sitting in the warehouse already. It's the lag time is huge. Mm-hmm. But just to have the companies know that they have to do this is really good.
Yeah, I mean, I like it.
Really good.
I did hear, there was definitely difficulty at times of staying awake.
Some of these guys are not dynamic. Let's put it this way. I don't think anybody that I heard when I listened in on the AAFCO meeting is going to be doing a TED Talk anytime soon.
No.
It's just not going to happen. The other interesting thing on the label is they are listing where the calories are coming from, which is a good, whether they're from protein, fat, or carb. That's actually going to be more helpful to consumers than the downright analysis.
Now, I could be wrong on this because, again, some of it did bleed together in my brain. But I remember one person was talking, it was towards the end, and they were talking about how they had such a small vials, and they would have to put the actual list of ingredients and how hard it's going to be to get it to that size for such small bottles. And, that is going to be a challenge. I would almost wonder in that case if whatever kind of box it might come in might suffice. Mm-hmm. Something to that kind of area, because obviously ingredients matter, and all of this stuff does matter.
Regardless of what boarded nutritionists tell you, when a boarded nutritionist tells you, don't read the ingredients, you can't judge the food by that.
Actually,
that blew me away. And everyone knows I'm speaking of that famous blog that, to my mind, was an insult to dog and cat people everywhere, if they're not smart enough to read the ingredients list. And, they may not know the ins and outs, but they care enough to read the ingredients. Why in the world would you discourage them?
Well, I mean, you know this. PFI came out on this show and actually said, don't read the ingredients. So, I mean, hey, they clearly came out and said it. And they did.
Yeah.
They did try to recant, but they didn't recant through me. They went elsewhere.
No.
And
elsewhere,
it's like,
yeah.
It was, what?
Well, and it's like, how many food allergic dogs do I have via different testing?
Mm-hmm.
And, we can debate the merits of food allergy testing, some other time. Various experts say, yes, it works, no, it doesn't, whatever. If you use it as a rough guideline and you eliminate the things the dog tests high for,
mm-hmm.
and the dog gets better, to me that's proof the test gave you useful information. How are they going to know that if they don't read the ingredients?
Right. And I think consumers, and I put myself in this category, I'm sure you
mm-hmm.
do too, I think we want to know exactly what we're going to feed. I mean, it applies the same to us. Do we not look at our ingredients and make sure what we have is viable and not too much calories, not too much sugar? We do.
Right.
So it does shock me.
Why in the world wouldn't you look?
Right.
What's in there?
Don't know. Just trust what they're telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
That's
rough.
the big companies. No, that was just unconscionable. And perhaps that wasn't exactly what was intended, the intended message, but it hasn't been clarified since, so I can only assume it was the intended message.
I would still go with that was the intended message.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go with it.
But yeah. So AAFCO, I mean, it's a tough thing. It's what we have in terms of I don't want to even say regulation, organization of the pet food industry.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not a government entity. They have no regulatory enforcement. They recommend what the state laws should be,
mm-hmm.
and then the states are obligated to enact them. Now, one thing, speaking of labels, I had an instance, and it actually happened with a raw food manufacturer that I used to use their commercial prep. And I noticed that the food looked different. So I read the ingredients and noticed that they no longer used ground bone. They were using something called bone dust. Mm-hmm. And I was unfamiliar with the term bone dust. So I called my panel of experts, and some weren't familiar. One said, oh, okay, it's just what comes off the saw when they're sawing up bones, and you have something that comes off kind of on the side, much like sawdust. And I'm like, okay. It doesn't say what species, and the mix I was happening to use was a turkey mix. So I didn't understand why it wasn't ground turkey bone in there. So I called the company, and they could not give me a straight answer and never called me back. So on the advice of one of my friends, I called my state Department of Agriculture and said, look, this is the food. This is what my label says. What is this ingredient? And, how do I find out more what it is? And the first thing he said, well, that is not an AAFCO-defined ingredient. So it is illegal for them to use it in the food. And second, the label that they filed with New York State still listed the ground turkey bones. Now, when they make an ingredient change or a label change, they're obligated to tell the state that they're selling the food in and provide them with that information prior to selling it. So my state agriculture and markets guy actually went to the food company and said, A, what is this? And B, I need an updated label from you, or I'm going to shut you down in New York. And I'm sure they didn't provide this to any other state if they didn't provide it to New York. And this is a huge issue for this label change with carbs. Every state that they sell in, I'm assuming that state laws parallel each other, is going to have to be notified of this. And it's going to have to get approval. And as you pointed out, it's going to take a while before this comes through.
I've listened to other ones. I've been listening to the AAFCO meetings a few times over the last few years. Every time they go up. And I would say, and I was telling you this, and I'll completely say it right now, and that is, I felt like there was a little bit more defensive comments made from a couple chair members.
Oh, right. Yes, in the opening statements there was certainly a defensiveness, and there was also a resolution to rename themselves the American Association of Pet Food Control, as opposed to feed control. And the difference between feed and food is something humans eat, feed is something animals eat.
Mm-hmm.
Given that the number of pet foods that are human quality and can legally make that claim, you can count on one hand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're feed. They are animal feed. They are not human quality. And for my dogs eat human quality.
Mm-hmm.
I will not feed them the equivalent of roadkill or other rendered products. And to deceive the public that you're regulating animal food when you're regulating animal feed is huge.
You know, you just kind of hit a little bell, which, you know, again, I'm surprised I didn't even talk to you this beforehand. What is your take? And this is very strange to me, and it's still strange to me. What is your take on this, I want to say movement or small group of people that actually scour the roadways for roadkill to feed their dogs?
They fall under the extreme prey model feeders to me. And I have a client, a wonderful lady. She hit a deer just out down the road. She has a long driveway, and just up the road, deer runs in front of her car. You know, call the state trooper, etc., etc. And in New York, if you hit a deer, regardless of time of year, you are allowed to take that deer if you want it. You just have to tell the state trooper. They issue you a tag so that everybody knows you didn't take this deer out of season or anything like that. And, you know, she knew where she had hit the deer, and she did take, I think, the hindquarters, the muscle, and everything. I have no problem with that. You know, she knows when it died. It was fresh. She handled it appropriately. Would it be something I would want to do? Not unless I could hire somebody else to do it. But there's nothing wrong with that kind of meat. It's wild venison. It's not a lot different than if someone had hunted it. Would I scour for roadkill that had been there for an undetermined amount of time, had flies lay eggs in it and stuff? No. Again, I'm kind of on the human quality. Mm-hmm. That fresh killed venison that was going to be, you know, I forget what they call it, seasoned, hung, whatever, aged, and handled appropriately, fine.
I just think it's
something that killed on the side of the road yesterday.
Yeah.
No.
People will
I wouldn't put it on a spoon and put it in my mouth. No.
Right. I think it's a weird movement. I still think it's very underground. I don't think it's become mainstream, but I've seen a lot.
It's never going to become mainstream, because look at what I call the extreme prey model, to throw the dead bunny, hair and all out in the yard and let your dogs eat it. You know, most people are grossed out by that. I mean, I kind of am too, even though I know it's Mother Nature's way. I like my dogs to eat food from a bowl in my kitchen.
I would too, but it's kind of a weird... I've seen it on different social media pages where people go, I just hit a deer and it was pregnant and I scored big, and I'm thinking to myself, this is probably not something I would be proud of.
No. I mean, and how much damage did it do to your car and the poor deer and and everything. But, I'm in upstate New York. Loads of people hunt here.
Mm-hmm.
They have big freezers. They have meat cutting equipment. They can process it in a human quality fashion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess I can live with it.
I can live with the hunting portion.
Yeah, I mean, and certainly, like, bruised meat and such, that muscle is so damaged, I wouldn't want to feed it.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at it from the other side, I mean, this is such a gray area. Here's an animal who's never had antibiotics, never had chemicals put on it, probably never eaten corn other than, whatever it got from a field.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in many ways, it is a lean, healthy protein with minimal contamination. I can understand the appeal of it.
Never thought of it that way.
It's just, if it's fresh.
Right.
I think of, like right now it's 81 degrees. It feels like 92 outside.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody hits something now, even just overnight, that's going to be rotting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not in favor of feeding dogs rotten, spoiled meat. Even if their stomach acids can handle it, it's not nutritious.
Yeah, I think you're really running a risk. You're running such a risk, and that's why I meant to.
You're running a risk, and you're doing your dog a disservice by feeding them less than nutritious meat, aside from the risk.
Yeah, I've been meaning to send you a message about this for, I want to say, like 2 or 3 weeks. I was just like, it's been driving me nuts, and it's been chaotic.
Yeah.
It's like,
and I think there's a certain number of people on social media who enjoy posting stuff for the shock value. Just like that. There was that kid in high school who would say anything to get a reaction.
I might have been that kid. Just saying, I may have been that kid. I may still be that kid.
We all have our moments, yeah.
Well, sometimes a good moment is just needed.
Well, and actually there was a movement for a while of people dumpster diving in the dumpsters behind grocery stores.
Yeah, I know that.
The foods they throw out that actually aren't bad. And, people were putting up videos of it and stuff, and it's like, I don't know that I'd be getting my food from a dumpster.
Actually,
I wish they would be able to donate them to food pantries or homeless shelters more easily.
Yeah, they were actually doing some shows were doing things on it. They had, I forget what channel it was on. My wife she likes those kind of shows that are just really weird. Mm-hmm. And there would be My Strange Addiction or something like that. It wasn't that exact show, but it was similar to that. And they had people over, and they never told them where they got their food, and they would go dumpster diving. And we're sitting there watching this going, I don't want friends if I'm going to be invited to their house to eat someone else's trash. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
It's just weird.
But yeah, I know, between restaurants and supermarkets and the like, a lot of food that really nothing is wrong with is discarded.
Yeah.
Whether for, health and sanitation reasons, or it's technically past its expiration date, but the expiration date really doesn't mean anything. It happens.
It does. In conclusion to AAFCO, because obviously, it is what it is. I have to give BC Henschen a lot of props on stepping into a very difficult seat when he took
as
over
a consumer rep, right?
Yeah, he's done a great job in that area. I got to give him that. And I love the fact that it did seem like the Army was out. Like I said before, these people. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Well, the number of advocates for healthy pet food was huge. Mm-hmm. We had Karen Becker there. We had Rodney Habib there. Mm-hmm. Daniel Orrego, who's formerly of Keto Pet. You may still be involved with Keto Pet. I honestly don't know. And also Pause for Change. Dr. Barbara Royal and Natasha Lilly from Chicago. There's Oprah's there.
Right.
Tammy Akerman, who's an attorney and very involved with Panic Pause. BC, Roxanne Stone and Billy Hoekman from Answers, Dr. Cathy Alinovi, and of course Susan. There, in the past, there have been like 2 people or maybe 3 people.
Yep.
Now we've got over a dozen.
Yeah, Chelsea Kent from Colorado. As
well.
She's done a lot of great things.
Done a lot of great things. and people whose dogs were harmed or killed who got to speak. And, you know, I always hope for those people that, you know, you're standing there in front of several hundred, often probably stony-faced older guys, and you're talking about your dog that you love that was harmed or worse from a jerky treat, a food, what have you. You know, I just hope that somewhere they're reaching some of these people with their story. And that those guys go home and say, you know, we just have to find a way to do it better.
Right. I mean,
and, you know, we've all run into those business people who are like, I don't care about anything but, you know, the numbers and the bottom line and how am I going to do this? But hopefully there were some dog lovers there.
You know,
that heard their words.
It's when you think of the names that even you just mentioned. I mean, they're just extraordinary names, and I just noticed.
Well, they're extraordinary people, and they are all people whose work comes from their passion.
Yes. And
we need pet food companies that their product comes from their passion, not from their desire for profit. Because if they do that, if they're passionate about making a good product, the profits come.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to tell some MBA business dude that that's the truth. But when it comes to the pet industry, I think it is. I mean, how much would you pay for something for your dog compared to an equivalent product for yourself? I'd probably pay 3 times as much for something, for a fancy collar for my dog than I would for a piece of jewelry, and I'm just not a jewelry person, but a piece of jewelry for me, and think nothing of it.
Well, I'll spend $5 for a T-shirt, because most of my T-shirts, you know, I'm wearing Jurassic Park today. They're just simple T-shirts. But my dog, oh yeah, the collar on my dog alone is like $20 plus a name tag. I mean,
$20. Well, and again, geography.
Yes, exactly.
I have agility people. I'll give Paco collars a plug. Winners wear Paco. Paco collars, $120 is not unusual for a Paco collar. And, you know, dog people will spend money. Make them a good product.
Now all of a sudden I got to go look at Paco collars because I have no idea what I'm like, oh, I got to look this up.
You got to look this up. Oh, excuse me. The giant Royal Glow Deluxe is $250.
Oh boy.
And these are not, you know, little frou-frou Paris Hilton dog collars. And I just picked Paco as one that, you know, somebody mentioned to me today. But, you know, we spend money on our pets. Cat people. I mean, think of the cat trees.
Yes.
The cat, you know, beds and the automated litter things and stuff. I mean, we spare nothing to make our pets' lives healthier, more comfortable, more enjoyable for them, and we'll do anything. I mean, we're really suckers when you think about it. You know,
we are. Well, I look at the toys like, you know, I think about it this way. You know, my dog it's my male Akita, not the female. She's pampered as well as I've mentioned so many times. But the male is he's the new one. He loves his toys. Katana, she doesn't really care about toys, but he likes the hedgehog toys. He likes all of them, which again gets me surprised because it's put by Toys R Us. They're the company. If you go to PetSmart, their toys. He loves going in there for the toys. It's like it is Toys R Us for him. It makes it a little ironic that while buying Toys R Us toys, that now Toys R Us is no longer in business. It makes me sad at the same time. But I look at this and I go, it's about $10 a toy, and he has a ton of them. And I'm just like,
right. It doesn't matter how many they have.
No,
I like that one. I'm buying it for him.
Oh, see, it doesn't even happen like that for us. We walk into PetSmart, and he knows that we're going in there so he can go get a toy. and he goes and he picks out his toy. He literally takes a look around, walks the aisle of toys, picks it up with his mouth, and starts heading towards the cashier. That's that. And it's like going to a toy store with my daughter. The same identical, except he's quicker at finding what he wants, which is ironic.
Mm-hmm.
Takes her like 20 minutes. Takes him maybe 2. And what are we going to do? Sure, go ahead. That's what you want. We don't even care.
You got it.
Right.
Yeah.
So bad. So
bad. My technician, who has this wonderful little cattle dog healer cross, she's got different collars for every day. She's got her different coats. She's got her raincoat. She's got her different beds. Her bed to go when she goes to a dog obedience trial. She does rally and stuff. It's like Freya has her own room practically. And this is just a technician, a vet tech. I mean, she's extremely skilled and wonderful, but she's not making $100,000 a year. But her dog is her priority.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? She raises rabbits on her little farm because her dog has some food sensitivities and does a home-prepared diet. From the point of raising the rabbits herself, she has someone who does the slaughtering and cleaning. And her dog is essentially eating, I guess you'd call it, free-range rabbit.
I couldn't raise my own rabbit. I couldn't do it. I couldn't raise my... I had rabbits as pets when my wife and I first got together.
She has pet and show bunnies, too. She's really into the bunnies. But she has meat rabbits. And if you grow up on a farm and stuff, you kind of get used to it. But the pet bunnies are so cute and so friendly and socialized and everything. She doesn't make friends with her meat rabbits.
Yes, I could never raise them. I do have a person who actually sells us the rabbits, and that's as close as I can get to it. I could never raise them. I would just be too attached.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Well, that's why I say she puts her, everybody's treated kindly and perfectly, of course, but she puts her socialization and care and handling into the pet rabbits. And the meat rabbits, are cared for well, but you get attached.
Right. Well, let's go on to a next subject, and since we're over the hour marker, I want to make sure we actually, I want to make sure we go to this one, which is, of course,
right,
where it all started, and I'm trying to think back to when we first met, and this whole Healthy Dog Expo 18, that I remembered the whole thing.
Last April.
Yeah, a few months ago, but I remember when we started talking a year ago about how you were starting it, and I was like, oh, you got a long time, and your exact comment, and I remember it verbatim, was, it's really not that long away, and I'm thinking, like, what, 8 months? And you're like, no, it's not that long. Now here we are again, talking about 19, which is shocking.
Yep,
and
April 6, 2019.
And I'm going to say it again. Well, that's still a while away.
Oh my gosh! But you have no idea until you put on one of these events. You have no idea of how much there is to do, and it's like I have a day job, so this is all fit into my off time. But yeah, I'm plans are progressing. I'm on schedule. I have a great new venue called the Albany Desmond, which is a little different layout. Everything will be more central between where the lecture hall is and where the exhibitors and vendors are around the koi pond, where lunch is in the courtyard. This venue, it's like being in an outdoor park indoors. So, there are trees, there's a koi pond, there's everything, and you're indoors, and there's sunlight. So it's brilliant. I have amazing speakers, some returnees, some new. I have Cole Harrington from Pet Fooled, who tells me that Pet Fooled 2, or 2.0, very well may be out by next April. So you may be able to come to the expo and get your own signed copy of the DVD.
Interesting. I didn't know it was actually that close.
As well as hearing. Yeah. Oh, he's making amazing strides. And, here's someone who really, prior to his first documentary, which is award-winning, is on Netflix, is on iTunes, is everywhere, had no connection to the pet food industry. But the whole story of the pet food industry is actually so captivating that he's now doing his second documentary on it.
Mm-hmm.
And he did share with me that he has had interviews with some kibble companies, whereas in the first pet food movie, no one would talk to him. So I think he's making huge inroads, and we'll have some amazing information to share.
And
he's just a lot of fun, a very insightful, truly honest guy.
Yes.
And he puts it out there as it is, which I admire a great deal.
And he linked up with Taz Latifi, which I thought was a good fit. And she has a lot of connections within there as well, so that's a big benefit.
Yeah. Taz came to my first expo, along with Gregory Lucas and Mark Berube from Lucas and Berube. And I'm sure they'll be making the trip up. And yeah, Taz is brilliant, and so many connections. Who else? I have Dr. Debbie Taraka and Suzanne Clothier coming back again by popular demand. Suzanne will be covering some behavior and training aspects, as well as sharing some of her amazingly funny stories, because she has traveled the world in the dog training, and there's a health crossover there too, business, and just has some crazy stories to share. I have one of the few integrative and holistic oncologists coming, Dr. Kendra Pope. She's from New Jersey. She, of course, advocates for fresh food for her patients. In fact, in the video, when I looked up her as a potential speaker after someone recommended her, the first video I saw, she said the first thing I do is put my patients on a fresh food diet, because that's what's healthiest for them as they're dealing with their cancer. And I thought, this lady has to come speak. She's totally on our page. And she integrates a lot of acupuncture, Chinese medicine techniques, herbal techniques, as well as being boarded in traditional oncology medicine by the American College of Veterinary Internal Medicine. So way smart people.
And then you have...
I have Kimberly Gauthier coming.
I was going to say that. I was going to add that in.
Yeah. And I'm going to break it here. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to, but Kimberly Gauthier is in Pet Food 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
So she'll be talking raw food, talking to people about not being afraid and how to get started and such. And I'm going to twist her arm and make her do some Facebook Lives with folks from there, because I'm working on a way to get this live stream, but I don't know if I'll have it. But the next best thing is I can have an expert interviewer like Kimberly bopping around and at least give people who can't make it to New York in April a glimpse of what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And some useful information to share and spread to wherever it goes.
Facebook Live and Facebook Live being mobile in an event like that is so...
Oh my God.
It's just crucial to everything.
It is crucial.
I can't even tell.
The whole purpose of this event is to share the knowledge.
Right.
And, while I want everybody to come, because you're going to have in-person experience, which you can't, there's nothing like being there.
Right.
And, there'll be amazing swag bags, amazing vendors and exhibitors, live demonstrations, all sorts of cool stuff. But if you live in Washington State or California, you might not be able to fly in for the day. But we'll try to get you covered.
Yeah, I can't even mention what's going on with snowcats yet. I could tell you later, but I can't say anything about it. But it's like there's such an importance to Facebook Live and these events. It almost kind of draws people in, and they're like, you know what? Why wasn't I there? And I remember your swag bag from this year. Man, you had some stuff in there that was good.
Oh, yeah. I had amazingly generous donors, and I'm looking for an even bigger one this year. Registration will be. We haven't set the final price. It'll be a little higher than last year, but the value you're going to get is going to far exceed what your registration fee is and what you're going to get out of it. And my goal for 2020 is a 2-day event.
Oh,
so
wow.
I've got to grow this so that I can pull that off.
Oh, wow. That's
the goal. And I'm hoping, right now that's at HealthyDogExpo.com. You can see the speakers, you can see the basics of what we're doing. More details will be coming out as I update the website over the weekend. We're hoping for some surprise guests. People have said, maybe I'll get so-and-so to tag along. So you never know when you walk into that venue who you might walk into.
Very true.
Which is going to be amazing. I want to get Susan to come up, but I don't know if she's available on that date. Susan Thixton. She came last year and had a toothache and was sick, and it's like, I want you to just come be a guest and hang out, talk to people. So we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, she's, the two things that are on my favorite list of things is I love going into my voodoo, and I love being able to see, I still love looking and seeing my pet fooled right there in that. And I still have the poster up at my shop, still to this day.
Oh, definitely.
And I think Kimberly should be almost done with her second book by then, if not by then.
Yeah, she's getting close.
Yeah. So
we'll figure out a way. There will be opportunities for book signings, because pretty much most of my speakers and many of my exhibitors' vendors have a book that's already out, if not just in the works. So, Debbie has multiple books and DVDs. Suzanne does. Kendra, I think, has something in the works. Kimberly, of course. Cole has Pet Fools. Loads of great stuff. And, for me, there's something special about a live event.
Yes.
I do a lot of my continuing education and things online because it fits in my schedule. And that's all great. And even Facebook Live is great, but it doesn't hold a candle to shaking that person's hand and talking to them face to face about what your question is or what you're passionate about or what's going on in the world.
Right. There's nothing like it, but the next part is that you actually get to find out what they're like. And because you get to see their work, or you get to read their words on paper or in a digital format. Right. But you didn't really get to hear them unless, they've done it. Like with Cole, you get to hear them in narration throughout the movie. But, it's like
still Cole in person or Becker in person or any of these guys. One of the things people don't know is just these people are just warm, kind, passionate, and scary smart people. Wicked smart. And, that's why they're going to change the world for us. And we need to get behind them and support them and do our part of, we want better for our pets.
Right. And, I still think that even though I know Cole lives in LA, I still think he has a very deep desire to live in New York. I know he likes New York more than other places, and he loves going to shows. Right. So I would not be surprised that he does not become a resident of New York very soon.
Well, we all have our day jobs. We all have, the things we have to do.
Right.
And, depending on, I guess I don't know a lot about the film industry, but my instinct is it lives in California and New York.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be in one location and willing to travel for the other.
I think your three spots in the States is Los Angeles, which is not as booming as it used to be. Actually, the biggest spot is Atlanta. That's the biggest spot.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, Atlanta has become the hot spot. That's where they film practically everything now. You have Walking Dead. You have Marvel. They've been making a great deal out there.
Well, we're having in Albany. We had Angelina Jolie's Salt was filmed up here.
Oh yeah,
the stunt scenes where she's on the train and jumping off things and stuff. That's like 5 minutes from my house.
I love that movie.
We have a Marvel movie filming some stuff up here, and The Place Beyond the Pines with oh god, who was in that? Not McConaughey. The Place Beyond the Pines. Oh god.
I don't think I
was filmed in Schenectady. Ryan Gosling.
Okay.
Was filmed up here. We actually in the Albany area get a fair number of major films filmed up here, which is crazy.
It's because it is a really great landscape, and so you can actually do so many different things. And you know what's funny is that we started conversation before we did even hit record. We started with movies. Here we go again. Well, folks, you wanted to hear about the movies, about what we were talking about before.
Okay. So, best dog movie. What's the best dog movie out there?
Best dog movie. I'm gonna go back, and I'm gonna go to my favorite kid movie. When I was really young, I loved Beethoven. That was my favorite.
Okay.
I'm trying to think, is there anything that would be better than Beethoven? And, you know, I don't know if it was my age and the fact that I just really loved that movie and watched it a million times on VHS until it probably broke. I don't think there was a movie that, you know, I love The Sandlot, and I just love the dog that was in the movie. And I can't remember his name. I want to call him Dugout, but I don't think that was his name. But the Soul Dog movie, I would go with Beethoven. What would be your call?
Well, it's a toss-up. My Dog Skip, tearjerker, but great movie. And I have to say, if you're in the mood for it, Best in Show.
Best in Show's good.
Oh, and Megan Levy.
I don't.
Have you seen Megan Levy?
I did not see that.
Oh my God! Yes. Megan Levy, who is an acquaintance of mine, was in the Army and was a canine handler. And it's the story of her and her becoming a canine handler and her experience in the Middle East. And I won't go further than that to spoil it with anyone. But it's on, I believe it's on Netflix and such. Definitely have to watch it. And right now, Megan Levy is working for the New York Yankees.
Really?
She was a vet tech at one point, and after the movie became more of a personality, and she always loved the Yankees. But you need to watch the film. It features a Malinois. A Shepherd, excuse me. A German Shepherd named Rex.
Well, now you know what I'm going to be doing this weekend. So
now you got three. You got a tearjerker, you got Megan Levy, and you got Best in Show to laugh a bit.
You know what? I can say I've seen one of those, which is sad, I know. But, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the difference, though, now, is that we have Netflix and we have iTunes and we have all these different ways of getting our stuff.
And all those things.
Right. It's just so easy just to get our hands on it. Where probably people are writing down, oh, yeah, I should see that movie.
Yeah.
So, you know, again.
Definitely, I think everybody should see Megan Levy because it's just, you should.
You know, is it weird that the whole story with Megan Levy, like you just told, remind me a little bit like Debbie Taraka? You know, going from being part of the ballet to the Chargers and having all of the...
Right.
And then all of a sudden, you know, it's like, you know, it was a passion.
life is a journey.
Yeah.
And, you know, I never thought I'd be doing today, you know, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. I never thought I'd be where I am today. And, you know, what I'm trying to accomplish, the projects I'm working on and stuff. And, you know, I mean, life just takes you to where the things you think are important, you know, lead you.
It is.
And for me, I'm tired of people having sick dogs, tired of people having dogs with cancer at a young age, and other health issues that I think are avoidable. So I'm working with people who are looking for ways to prevent those things from happening.
You know what I didn't ask?
That means a lot to me.
I didn't ask you what your soapbox moment was for this week. That's like a common thing.
You just got it.
I did. I know. Like I forgot to ask it. Here it is, right there in front of me. Yeah. Oh my gosh!
You always do ask that, don't you? And you know, I think many of the people that we talked about that were at AAFCO would say the same thing.
Yeah.
You know that there's an element of frustration with the problem, which is dogs aren't living as long as they should. Dogs aren't as healthy as they should be. You know, along with health for the trainer types, you know, their behavior isn't as normal. They're not leading as rich a life as they should.
Mm-hmm.
And we want something better, that's all.
It's like, you know, with the people that I know that you know, they would all say the same thing. It starts with nutrition. It's followed with exercise, mental and physical. And it's just attention to detail. And if we don't follow these simple plans, you're just, well,
and I think I would add to that, you know, it's so easy in our lives today, it happens to me, you go into the overwhelm mode of, you just listed 4 things, I can't possibly do that, I'm overwhelmed, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
I'm a big fan of Susan Garrett, world's best dog agility trainer. She started with something called the 5-minute formula. She developed a series of training games because all of her training is game-based because it's got to be fun for the dog, that you could do in 5 minutes. In 5 minutes a day, you can challenge your dog mentally. Who doesn't have 5 minutes? I got 5 minutes. I just put the coffee cup down and go outside for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can do it before I go to work in the morning. You know, it's not hard, and I think it's important that while, you know, we're saying all these things that mean everything to us, that we don't let people get overwhelmed by what they have to do. We're talking 5 or 10 minutes a day to make stuff better. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes fun, and then, of course, it lasts longer. But it's not hard. It's not hard.
And
5 minutes a day to feed your dog better. Put some green stuff in the bowl. No big deal. Not overwhelming, not scary. But each day we take a step.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll tell you, my dogs, you know what their favorite thing to do is go for a walk.
What?
Take them on the path and take them out for a walk. And, you know, the irony is if I don't go for a couple days, because our house has no fence. So it's kind of a weird way. I think I mentioned this before. You know, we have this walking bike path behind in a creek.
Right.
And they'll look at that bike path and like, I want to go for a walk. If you don't go for a couple days, they will literally go for it and they want to go for that walk. And if you go, they're fine and they're cool. But that simple walk, no phone, no screens at all. You're not allowed to bring anything. You just go for a walk. Right. It is the most tranquil spot. It is like the greatest 15, 20 minutes. And you go for a mile or two, and you come back. You're exercised, and your dog happy.
Right.
And you think to yourself, a dog smells and everything. Yeah, it's simple, and they're smelling, and they're doing all this stuff, and stimulating that brain of theirs that needs to be exercised. And then they come home, and they're stimulated. So simple.
Yeah. Yeah. My dogs will push me, and if we haven't done something, you know, I get the pocket poke, and then they run to the dog bed, which is their hot zone. And, you know, they're rewarded for jumping on there, the little dog's hut.
Right.
Or, you know, I get somebody who all of a sudden hops onto a little footstool, and then the next thing you know, they're in my lap. And it's like, okay. Or I'm not getting up early enough in the morning. I used to have my girl's mother who would grab the covers and literally rip them off. I mean, they learn to demand as your relationship grows, and, you know, like your dogs are telling you there's communication there, which is great.
I'll even take it one step further. If Saturday, Sunday, I don't have to get up at my early time, 8 o'clock, right. It never fails. They open up, it's of course Sumo, it's our adult male, 10-month-old male.
Right.
He will open up our bedroom door to say, hey, want to go outside now?
I'm here.
Yeah. And if I have to get up, take him outside, he wants to run a couple laps, he wants to do whatever he wants to do, then you let him back in and you can lay back down for 5 or 10 more minutes and you're good. But every Saturday, Sunday, 8 in the morning, you're awake because he's not going to let me.
Yeah.
And of course, Katana's like,
let's do this.
Yeah.
These past couple weeks when I've been sick with this summer cold that I'm having trouble kicking, my dogs were so patient when I would come home. I left work early and I took a day off. And it's like, okay, I'm downstairs. We're having breakfast. You're done. Now we're going back upstairs to sleep. They were so patient. But there was a definite of, come on, you need to get up. You need to do at certain times. And it's like they gave me a couple hours. But then they said, now it's time.
Well, summer colds are the worst. They're the worst. They don't go away.
They are. No, they don't. And usually I lose my voice. I start with a laryngitis. So I got through that, and then I must have relapsed or something. But it's on the way out. My voice is just still a tad hoarse, but not what it was. That was sad.
Yeah, on the beginning of the week, you're like, I'm really hoping we're going to be able to get this done. I'm like, well, it's not, you know.
Yeah.
I know Debbie was saying the same thing. She's like, I like to come on. It's like, okay, we'll get there. I mean, to think that even though you're coming up and being weird to record something that's going up this week, I mean, literally 48 hours it'll be up. And everybody else is waiting until November, December. I'm going, oh, well, you know, a lot of practically.
But again, the stuff we're talking about is somewhat time sensitive with AAFCO and all.
Right.
And with the touring stuff. And even as I've been sitting here, I got another notice relative to the FDA investigating touring. So I urge people, especially who have golden retrievers, to, you know, talk to their vet, look at the news releases from UC Davis, look at the taurine deficient dilated cardiomyopathy group on Facebook, because Dr. Stern is an admin there. And he's the man when it comes to this. And, you know, we need answers on this because dogs are getting sick. And it's not, even though I say Goldens, it's not just Goldens.
Right.
There are many other breeds that are being affected and who have low taurine levels. So the more dogs and data we get, the faster we get an answer, which means fewer dogs having problems.
It's always about the science. We got to read it. We got to actually do the tests. And
and also, number one, don't panic. If you've been feeding, you know, one of the foods that, let's say you join this group, you look at the files, you see what foods seem to be associated. If you've been feeding those foods for a long time, don't panic. Have your vet listen to your dog, listen for a murmur. Do not start supplementing taurine immediately, because that will void any possible help your dog could be to the study.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing you want to do, have your veterinarian listen, take a blood sample, and have it sent to UC Davis for taurine analysis, and find out where you are. You may be fine. And if God forbid, your dog does have a murmur, have him or her seen by a cardiologist. But again, don't change anything until you have blood samples taken.
Right.
Because that data is so important because we're right at the beginning of this. And if your dog is asymptomatic, start rotating foods. Feed a variety of foods, a variety of brands, or decide to go to the fresh food side, whether it be cooked or raw. Whatever resonates with you. But again, number one, don't panic.
Yep.
Because you don't need to. But you need to be thoughtful and proactive in the steps you take.
That was really, really great input right there. That, I was going to say, is there anything that we left out? That was exactly it.
That's what we left out.
That was it. And guess what the worst part of this whole thing is?
What?
We're out of time.
Oh, yes, we are. We are definitely out of time. We are so out of time.
You know what? It's been over an hour and a half on this. It's been 2 hours, and it feels like 5 minutes. And I still have so much more.
Right.
And yet, you know what?
Yeah.
It'll have to be another day.
Yes, it will be another day, and we'll have more exciting topics to talk about.
And movies, probably.
And probably movies.
Probably.
Yeah, I will see Jurassic, whatever the newest one is, Jurassic World.
Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Yes. I enjoyed it.
Kingdom, okay.
I
will have seen that by the time we talk next.
Well, I'm still an Avengers fan. I still like all the Marvel stuff.
Okay.
Those
okay.
My daughter and I go.
You have to come to the expo and talk with Kimberly because she is a big Marvel person.
I know she is. That's right. Actually,
she's
Billy.
Huge.
Yeah, Billy Hoekman and her are both ridiculously huge, like I am, and of course Claire. She just absolutely loses her mind for this stuff as well. She was the one who's like, we got to go see Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm like, okay, which was good too. But oh well.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Chris Green. Have a pet-tastic week. Did you want to say anything on the close? Because you should have a close too.
I should have a close too.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. HealthyDogWorkshop.com if you want to get a hold of me. HealthyDogExpo.com if you want to come see all the fun people and hang with us in April.
There you are. Well, bye-bye, everybody.
Okay, gotta go in my bedtime.